we went to Gamescom. We took a bunch of time and did a whole bunch of work. Went to PAX, had a demo for PAX. And of course, there's been lots of changes as we've gone through all of this. So it's probably a good time to kind of do a general update and sort
Yeah,
of let people know where the project is going. I mean, I know that we're sort of targeting that Q1, Q2 kind of area next year for things to be done. I've been watching the channels, the internal chat and all of the artwork. I mean, this stuff is flying by really quickly. Um, where are we? Where do we stand?
yeah. So, after Gamescom last year, and right in context, right, we had just heard that we had gotten production funding. So we took a step back and tried to focus on cleaning up some technical debt, right? Like, we were an indie studio. We're an indie studio, reasonably small budget. And we were really just taking things one step at a time. So, right, go back through our history. Hey, I've got an idea for a game. Hey, I'm going to use my own money. We're going to make a vertical slice and then go find a publisher for it. Oh, hey, CMF is a thing. Okay, we got some CMF money. Oh, no, okay, we didn't get some CMF money. We have to wait. And then we got some more CMF money. Um, and so sort of through all that, you're dealing with this uncertainty around whether or not you're going to be able to finish, right? You're sort of taking it one milestone at a time, right? Let's get a vertical slice together so we can show publishers. Let's get something together so we can market it. Let's get something together so we can show the CMF. Obviously, we had some setbacks there, right? We still don't have a publishing deal. We had that application with the CMF where we didn't get prototyping. And we basically had to press pause for 6 months or work on it slower than we would have had we gotten the funding right away. And so just so much uncertainty around, you're sort of taking it one day at a time, and you're kit bashing things together and making minimum viable products for everything. And so to finally hear that we knew we would get enough money to be able to make the game that we wanted was huge for us. But it also means taking a step back and going, okay, so what are we really doing? Like, what is the actual scope that we're committing to deliver? What does that mean for us from a technology perspective, software perspective, the numbers and types of assets and people to produce those assets that we need? Where are our current gaps? What's the right size of team? All those sorts of questions were out there, and there were things we had to answer, and so we really just took some time after Gamescom last year and really until quite recently to answer all those questions. And so, right, scoping, being really rigid about, or really intentional about, what is the scope of the game? How many words is it going to be? How many scenes is it? How many playable characters? How many NPCs? How many comic panels, right? All the major, we got a lot of feedback about the demo too, the old one. So let's, sort of internalize that feedback and figure out what to do about positive and negative. What do people like? What don't they like? What bugs and other technology issues did we run into? There were some areas that weren't as performant as we wanted. There were some UI improvements we wanted to make, some graphical improvements that we wanted to make. And so we took all of that, which was a lot, and we took a step back and we ironed all that out, figured it out, made those changes to our most recent demo and Steam page, and sort of updated and refreshed everything to go to PAX. And now we're really focused on finishing what we started. And I think a big part of what I learned from going to PAX is it's good in some ways, but it's also a distraction in others, right? How many hours did we spend doing stuff for PAX, even in terms of just physically going and spending a week at the show instead of, right, you and I and Nick and Scott couldn't work on the game as much as we might normally because we were on the show floor talking to people and showing the game all day instead of actually working on it. So even just, and traveling and all that sort of stuff. So even just there, it's a bit of a distraction. And so I think to me right now, the big thing we're doing is focusing on finishing, like you say, targeting that, Q1, late Q1, early Q2 next year. So setting up our milestones and figuring out what do we got to do between now and then to get to where we want.
Mhm. And something that a lot of folks may not know, and because I know we've talked about it in a few places, but not in these yet, is that very recently you went full time.
Right. Right. So
Right.
that was another big part of the whole decision-making criteria is, again, especially in the beginning, I was funding a lot of this development out of my own pocket. And so that meant that I needed to have a stable flow of income from my day job in order to be able to support my family and provide some extra money that I could put into the project. And so a couple of things there, right? That funding requirement, but also now sort of a regret management thing of like, we're a year away from release. How will I feel if I'm still juggling a day job and this last year of the project, which has been really intense so far? I'm
Mhm.
glad in hindsight right now, I'm glad that I stepped away from the day job because it lets me really put my time and attention where it belongs. I was feeling really torn between the two things as we kept going, and obviously wanting to do this, right? This is where my heart is. And I didn't want to always wonder if I was trying to juggle the two things, would the game have been better? Would it have sold better if I had taken the time off? Right? If the game doesn't do as well as we expect, if the studio doesn't get the funding that we need, I can always go get another job later. But I think I won't get another shot to do this like this.
Mhm.
So, right, I'm taking my shot, jumping in with both feet, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Running two jobs, your day job plus your passion, it takes a heck of a tolerant family
Yeah, yeah,
to do that. We have to extend some thanks in that direction for sure, because it's a
absolutely.
lot of work. I mean,
Yeah,
you think about we talk about the development, and you listen to gamers talk about games, and it all has to be a passion project. You can't even, as soon as you talk about making money and you talk about the cost of things and you talk about, how much you're going to sell a game for and whether you're going to do expansions or DLCs or things like that. The fact of the matter is that this is all a business and people's lives depend on this, right? How big is the team right now? How many are there?
yeah,
20,
yeah. So
20?
you're exactly right. So that's been a main driver for me that yes, we're making a game. Yes, we're passionate about that game. I love the product. Obviously, it's my idea. I created the darn thing. So yes, I care about it. But what I'm really doing is building a studio, building a business that provides for people. That yes, makes a product that people care about and will pay for. But right, we've got 24 people working for the studio now. That's 24 families that in part depend on us providing reliable work and having right reliable funding in order to be able to provide right. Yes, they get to work on something that they care about. Yes, it's super fun, but I'm worried about those 24 families.
Yeah, it's a really tricky thing. I have seen a lot of chatter back and forth. So my understanding is that from a writing perspective, everything is quite far along, and there's a fair amount that's starting to be locked down.
Yeah,
At
yeah,
the moment, the art side and level design obviously are not at the same stage. But I mean, my understanding from other development that I've been involved in along the way is, of course, that writing ends up being something that's done fairly early,
yeah, yeah.
in the general sense.
So we can talk a little bit more about development milestones and sort of where we sit right now is we want to be alpha complete. So the game, the critical path of the game is playable from beginning to end by the end of June. And that's right, narrative complete, well, critical path narrative complete, right? Levels complete. Maybe some of them are still white box, but like, right, you can play through the game campaign from beginning to end. We're hoping by the end of June, right? It's about mid-April right now when we're chatting. So that's not very far away. We want to be narrative complete by, and so that's right, side quests and like right
Yeah,
editing and all sorts of
yeah.
little stuff by,
Flavor text and
yeah, yeah,
all
right.
the bits and pieces.
Yeah, by say the end of August, something like that. and then run our or be probably complete in say September, October for PC Steam, because we need, right, what part of what we've learned is that it's going to take months to port the game to consoles, to localize it, and to do external QA. So we, right from talking to localization houses, porting houses, external QA firms, they want between 4 and 6 months to localize the game, right? We're going to do, I think, at least simplified Chinese and Russian for launch, and then look at whether or not we have, right? We're still months away from kind of knowing where we're going to be with budget. We're talking to Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, trying to work through the certification processes, the licensing processes to be able to get licenses to release there. Of course, then we have to port to those systems, trying to get on the Epic Game Store and GOG and all that sort of stuff. And so that stuff takes months to do, right? Getting developer kits and porting and local, right? 500,000 words, translating all that stuff, and not just machine translated, but like, context is important and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
It takes time. And so thinking about being finished the Steam English version by October and running a beta for the public, but then not actually releasing the game until February, March, April, based on where we come out with, porting and localization and everything else. Like, that's a normal part of development for studios that I didn't really appreciate when we got started in all this.
Yeah. And one thing that's interesting about it, you would have the English gamers watching who are saying, well, but if it's done, just give it to me because it's done. But one of the things we've been talking about this whole way through, it kind of links into like the early access model and, how DLC does after a game, or the episodic stuff that Telltale used to do. I don't know if they're even really still doing their thing, is you only get one opportunity to launch your game, right?
Yeah.
If you come out on Steam and you are English only, then you're going to miss out on the sales from people that speak Mandarin. You're going to miss out on the sales from people that speak Russian and whatever else. And historically, from the analytics that we've seen, there are big numbers of gamers in those languages who want to play this game. And so if you release early, it doesn't get as high of a rating or a ranking on the front page of Steam when it comes out. Fewer people buy it. There's fewer stakes on the table for the developers that have been working on this game, right? It's kind of a cascade of things that make you have to make those decisions, because localization was an important one right from day one, as I recall, right?
Yeah.
That was a big deal. Yeah, we'd love to do, VO, whether it's partial, full, or some kind of combination along the way. But localization was a make or break, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Right. You're exactly right. You only get one launch. And so, right from even just in our conversations with publishers, although we haven't signed a publishing deal, they've really reinforced that, like, if you can go simultaneous launch on consoles, you should. If you can do, the big market languages, English, simplified Chinese, and Russian, based on our data, you should. And you only get one launch. If you don't launch in those languages, they may never give you a second look again. If you don't launch on consoles at the same time, all the media that cover consoles and all the players on consoles, yeah, they might pick you up when you relaunch on consoles, but not as many people would ever get it as if you did it all at the same time. So if you can, you should. And so we really changed our focus to be able to start thinking that way, that in terms of giving the game to the largest addressable market from day one, we need to hit PC, consoles, English, Chinese, Russian, and that gives us the best chance for success. Yes, it might mean the English folks get it later than maybe they could, PC, Steam only, but we think it's worth the wait to be able to launch it to the most people possible.
Yep. It's also true that if a publisher gets involved, even if they don't, I mean, this is just generally true on a marketing standpoint, is if you're going to spend the money on the ads, and whether you get involved with any of the Twitch influencers or YouTubers or whatnot, the simultaneous launch with a marketing spend, right? You always want to do that once. You'd rather not have to do two marketing launches. It gets much more expensive to
Yeah.
do it that way, for sure. Um, so where are we going for the next couple of months then? I mean, if you're talking about critical path complete, then obviously, I mean, the artists are doing their thing, but you know, a lot of that is going to fall on Nick.
Yeah.
You know, making sure that writing is in and hooked up and everything else. Um,
Yeah. So
what's the next
it's been
step?
a it's been a pleasure to grow the team and to take some part-timers and turn them into full-time. That's really what we've been doing the last little while is taking some part-time writers and making them full-time. We've done that for, I think, 3 additional people in the last couple of months. Same thing with environment art, right? Taking a couple of part-timers and making them full-time, adding a couple of people to the team, because it's a lot of art assets, right? It's a lot of writing, it's a lot of editing, it's a lot of dialogue programming, and then it's a lot of environment art. And so really reinforcing those art, right, the art pipeline and the writing pipeline, giving them more resources and letting people work full time has been great. But yeah, it also means it's a lot. Like, right, you mentioned earlier that just the pace of our internal communication channels is pretty high. Like
Yeah.
every day, every week when we're meeting, it's progress, progress, progress. What are we working on this week? Right, I can see us getting closer every week. All that sort of stuff. Like it's happening, and we've got a lot of right. We're doing monthly sprints where we can see every month. Here's where we want to be. And I think we're going to have a lot more content done at the end of this month. And I think part of that is being able to focus coming back from PAX and knowing that we don't have any more in-person events that we would want to attend, at least until GamesCom and PAX West or PAX Prime in the fall. So
Mhm.
we know we've got at least until the end of August when Gamescom is, if we choose to go to Gamescom at all, we've got a good few months here that we can just put our heads down and just get her done.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. I don't think that there's much more, you know, as a dev update. One thing that I did want to comment on that I was going to a little bit early and it kind of spaced it, and I wanted to keep the conversation moving. Um, one thing that I'm hopeful for, and that I think is a good thing, where we're talking about that kind of delay between we think English is done, we've got localization, importing, and all the rest of this stuff to go. Um, is so far we have, you know, some fairly strong folks on the team that are doing an excellent job in QA. And with a game like this, where you have as much dialogue as there is and as much branching as there is, you need a lot of testing as well.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm very hopeful, and I suspect that it will be very excellent going through some of those beta tests and whatnot. Is that we have a lot of time after that completion sort of time frame, where this is going to be polished well.
Yeah.
It's going to be, you know, sailing through QA with flying colors by the time we're done,
Yeah, yeah,
which
right.
is a good
That
thing
well,
for
that's
everybody.
right. That's part of porting it right away to the other platforms is also you need to get through their certifications.
Mhm.
Right? So they need to do their testing, you need to do yours. Right? There's going to be a lot of external QA going on before we go public with it, right? We're not going to try and fix a broken game after we release it. We want it to feel really polished and really done when it comes out, right? When we say we're done with the English version in, August, September, it's like we just finished it. We haven't done the external QA yet. We're doing a bunch of internal QA as we go, but platform certifications, Steam Deck certification, right, external QA, our own internal testing, all that sort of stuff still needs to occur. And so, yeah, we're going to spend some time doing that for sure.
Yep. Yeah, it's not just sitting on a perfect game that's just waiting for some text to be changed. You know, there's a little more to this whole battle than that.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else that you wanted to give as an update, or we can say goodbye and chat with people on the next time we're around?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Thanks so much.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye.